It's all relationship driven. And I know like in dentistry, like so much stuff has become tech and so much stuff has become emails and text messages. And God forbid I meet the person face to face. Like, what the hell would I say?
Right.
And that's like so old school, like face to face, like, oh my God, no way. And yet at the same time, my feeling would be you want to create the best basis for your business to succeed. It's you create amazing relationships with people where they look at it and just say like, the age old thing, like people do business with people they like.
Yeah.
First purchase, maybe not. Well, I saved, $50 on the card. Okay. So you gave them that, but they're not coming back to the second card unless there's something like, if you said, I'm going to beat somebody on price. Well, go back in time and look at why isn't Montgomery Ward's here anymore? Because Sears beat them out. Why aren't they here? Because Kmart beat them out. Well, how come they're not there? Because Walmart beat them out. And guess what? You go to far enough years down the road, Amazon's going to get rid of Walmart. And it's always going to get rid of Amazon. I mean, that's just a transition because it's all based on price. But when you look at that service relationship side of it, Ritz-Carlton's been around for lots of years, all relationship based. And I'm not saying your business has to be a Ritz and all that kind of stuff. It's just when you focus on the relationship part, some of the tech stuff, you got to be wary of it because it's tech just for the sake of tech. But it's not addressing maybe the most important criteria, which is, but do our customers loving us more, or are they just loving the way we do this process? And with that process changes a little bit, they're like, there's no person attached to Amber. It's just at lastname.com. And I can just go to anybody else that's .com and go to them.
Hello and welcome to Pathways. I am your host, Amber Stitt. And today we welcome Dr. David Pearce to the show today. Welcome, David.
Hey, Amber. So I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you today.
Very excited to have the audience hear how you've gone from practicing with patients and switching gears to help people that guide patients and managing their practices and providing team engagement along the way. At what point in your life did you say, I'm switching gears and I need to do something a little different than my normal practice of being a dentist?
Long story short, I would just say that the advantage of owning your own brick and mortar place, there are advantages to that. So, I was a clinical dentist. And so you earn your living when you go to the shop, whatever your shop is. And when you're not the shop, you're losing money because the shop says, feed me. And we call that overhead. And so I certainly knew that. And even though as a dentist, we closed the office, saw no patients at least 12 to 14 weeks a year. So we'd work a 4-day week and close 12 to 14 weeks. So we had a lot of time away from the shop and still managed to be very profitable. At the same point in time, when that period of time off was over, it was like, tomorrow morning at this hour, you got to be at the shop. And so after my wife and I kind of put some things in place financially and maybe even professional goals as far as clinical goals that we finally looked at and said, I had been kind of unknowingly gearing myself towards helping other dentists with some really frustrations that I saw in other dentists. And I'd been in some mastermind groups where some of my ideas, people said like, those are great ideas. And you, David, seem to have the ability of taking a complex subject, ask enough questions to boil it down to something simple that I can do today or tomorrow. So having been successful in my own practice and having that great feedback from the group I was in, I thought, if I could help some other dentists not get out of their own way, but, get themselves and everything else out of the way so they could truly achieve their objectives. How cool would that be? Especially where the type of dentistry that we were doing was truly life-changing, like full mouth, full face, full whatever reconstructive type dentistry.
Yeah.
Is truly changing lives. And so the idea of being able to help more people get that was just really attractive. Plus, in this way, I can have a house in Florida and a house in Montana and go back and forth. You can do this kind of work.
Yeah.
And you want to. You don't have to go to the shop. So it's great.
Okay. I have a note about that.
Yes.
Circle passive income opportunities. We'll come back around to that.
Yes.
Because that is ultimately the financial freedom. It could be whatever you want it to be, not just some age at some point in the future. And my audience knows I talk about that. I don't go the traditional route of that retirement roadmap, if you will. So focusing on talents is really our first step, is foundational. And I feel like you loved doing your work, clinical dentistry. But isn't it interesting how these other things can evolve as you become a subject matter expert in your craft? It sounds like you're maybe a strategic thinker and sharing ideas, and people are coming to you. And then here we go. Here comes a different opportunity to have you generate income, but also stay within that niche that you love.
Right.
And I really think that's neat when it happens.
For sure. Yeah, no question.
Was there anything specific that you and your wife had talked about that was really like, I got to make this leap? Was there any like aha moment where you go, okay, we're doing this?
It's interesting. I think that maybe it wasn't so much an aha moment as I, without even knowing, kind of preparing for that, for quite a while, just because of the mastermind group that I was in, the success in the office, and part of that success in the clinical journey, there was a lot of education, courses that I would go to. And there's so many talented people there, Amber, way brighter, way more talented than I would ever hope to be. Just amazing people in the world. As you know, you meet amazing people. And it's like, wow, what talent that person has. And yet many of them were frustrated about, you'd ask them, so like, you're doing this kind of dentistry like all day long, right? And they'd say, no, once in a while. And then they'd be like, well, because insurance doesn't take care of it, or patients say no, or all that kind of stuff. And I thought, the shame of that was that the patient base wasn't getting the end product. It has nothing to do with money and other. It's like they weren't helping as many people as they should be. And yet my team and I were helping people. So I think maybe that when it comes to talent, that first maybe question to me, it'd be like, how do you get the right talent? Like, what does that look like? And to me, I would say it's a little bit like picking stocks, the people, even the experts say, it's kind of like throwing darts at a dartboard. But at the same point in time, you can get really good at throwing darts at a dartboard. And so for me, that's that same thing. And so our process was always kind of like, Jim Collins would help out here, like a noble purpose where you just say, so like, this is, when somebody's a new person, and revisit it all the time with your team. Like, why does this business exist? Like, this is why we're here. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's not about anything. It's this bigger purpose in all of us. And when you're hiring somebody or going to your team and even yourself, and you're getting a little bit like sidetracked, like, so like, why are we here? What's that big purpose? Are we truly addressing that every single moment? So talk to that. And if somebody says like, yeah, that doesn't resonate with me and my life path, to say, awesome, good. Well, then you don't want to come here because we're going to hit heads.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. Second thing would just be like core beliefs, like values and so forth, right at the interview all the time. Like, so these are our values, 5, 7. I'm like clear as bell. This is who we are. When we are at our best, this is who we are. And if those don't resonate with you, no worries. Just don't come here because we're going to bang heads. And then from there, you kind of set up, org boards, accountability charts, like put people in the right place. And then really just for us, it was a learning culture. Like every single person, you are going to become a leader. You're going to become a leader in your own position. And what does that look like? I would say, Amber, that we are trained, maybe everywhere in the world, certainly in America. I think our education system, as good or as bad as it is, it trains people to follow. It's like, if you're in grade school and everybody says, hey, everybody, see what a good job Amber's doing? Everybody, can you be like Amber and put your papers here? Then Amber's like, ooh, if I do what Mrs. Jones tells me to do, I get praise.
Yeah.
And if I don't do what she tells me to do, I get spanked. So follow what you're told to do, as opposed to using your own head and maybe making mistakes. So create that leadership area where you can allow, as a leader, the owner, allow your team to make mistakes, be okay with that, guide them, and just know that as they get better in their positions, everything gets better. So to me, that's the talent part. And, as far as developing a team, I always have to keep working on that self. Now the team is me, so if I don't like the way things are going, it's really easy. It's got to look in the mirror. Okay, there's your problem.
Self-reflection. So I tried to get back to you though, and you pushed it into the team, which kind of rolls into focusing on money and risk management, but I'll make it make more sense here in just a moment. You went back to, I was trying to say like talents, like what was the aha moment?
Yeah.
And you're like, hey, I can't move off of this thing I've been doing for, was it over 20 years?
Sure. Right.
Until my team, we have scale, everyone's happy, and it's profitable.
Right. Yep.
But it wasn't about just you. And then there's this culture of leadership and learning, personal development. Everyone's going to have different learning styles, but the overarching theme, it sounds like we got to keep learning and innovating.
For sure.
It doesn't matter where you fall in the org chart. I think that can truly help some of the employees that might be newer. Everyone deserves the fair shot to improve themselves.
Yeah.
And that's better for the patients too.
Yeah. And I would say, that like for me, the culture, you learn as you go, Amber, or you should hope you do, right? So for me as a lifelong learner, probably the first 2 decades of my career, I probably looked at an employee and said, well, I want to hire somebody. This is really pitiful, but it's my story. So I would have said, I'm going to hire people that are just smart enough to do their job. I don't want any Michael Jordans here, because if I get a Michael Jordan, they're going to leave. And then I got to find somebody else. So I'll get bare bones people. Don't want to train them too much, because you train them too much and then they leave. They get too good for the place. They're looking for a ladder and they want to grow and so forth. So don't do that. And that was like so stupid. Like, why would you do that, David? But that's where I was. And as I grew into that, I said, what if you create a culture where everybody's getting better? And then what happens if somebody leaves? And which happens because, life takes over. Lots of good reasons why people leave a business. Their spouse gets a job in another city, all kinds of stuff happens. They retire, whatever. But what I found was that when you have that culture there from the people that are still there, and the new person comes in, they very quickly, they either self-select out, like somehow I got into this place, like that throwing darts thing, somehow that person slipped through, but I don't fit in here. And the other team they're just going to demand it. Like, you have to pull your load here, person. Like, you just wait to get told to do. Or they start looking and saying like, this place is awesome because I've never been allowed to flourish. I've never been allowed to grow. I've always been pushed down. And so my feeling was always like, and I said this to myself and the team all the time, is that my goal for you is that you use this dental business thing we talk about as a practice ground so you can become awesome in the rest of your life. You become Alex, you become a better Christian. You become a better citizen. You become better leadership and all that stuff. Then the world truly gets better and you can practice here and I'll create a safe environment where you could fall on your face here and nobody's going to throw a spear at that. So to me, that's the beauty of that thing. And so as people left, which happened, it wasn't that like, it was like, nobody wants to replace somebody, especially if they'd been there for years. But at one point we had 3 people that had been there for over 15 years, 3 out of a team of 5. So 3 left in an 18-month period. So you have to replace that. And I thought, we never missed a beat. I mean, productivity, profitability, all that kind of stuff just kept going because those 2 people in the culture was like, okay, this is what we did. This is what we did. This is what we did.
Well, I've talked with you before about how I work with a lot of medical professionals and not everybody's going to own their own practice. But if you take this almost like you talked about, or you have in the past, rewiring to get this team engagement, you had to rewire yourself and your thinking and that mindset, and then you pulled it into the team. So I think let's talk about that a little bit because that could apply to anyone's businesses, not just medical practices.
Oh, you're so right. Yeah. So like when you say rewire like mindset, rewire. Yeah. And of course, I think that if anybody, when I coach people, if I said to somebody, I'm going to help you with your mindset, I think they say, well, good for you, David. Bye. It'd be a short.
Like my husband goes, personality assessments, those don't work. I'm not going to do it. I'll do it for you. And I'm like, thank you. I'll take the information.
Right.
Look, I'll work with it. No, but keep going.
Yeah. But, so because it's hard to look at yourself, with a clear lens and say, could I possibly be part of the problem? And to me, it's like, if there's anything about your business you don't like, it's because of you. Like, if it's because of people in your office, either you hired them or you're allowing them to stay, or you chose not to train them, or you chose not to give them the equipment. So you have nobody to blame but yourself when it comes down to it. So like, then if you look at that and say, so why are you making those decisions? Like, and it's what in your brain that stopped you from doing those things. So you're so right. It's like, rewiring for me, that was, probably, in speaking like in one of your pathway things is like network. It's, it's get around like-minded people and get rid of the naysayers, the people that are negative, like just be ruthless about getting rid of that. Because if anybody's like me, I have enough bad stories in my own head without letting other people put theirs in there.
Yeah. And that's where you need that tribe because we all need a little bit of help, I've leveled up just because of my community of people that see the good that I do. And sometimes I need to hear it from them. I'm not fishing, but when they do say it, I go, okay, it's a compliment. Take it. Don't dismiss it. And so let's talk about revenue. Let's talk about some income numbers here because you really turned it up a notch and were able to X factor the revenue. Right. Did this have anything to do with it?
Not anything. Totally. 100%. Yeah. It's funny because I can remember, money is a tool, right? That's all it is. Like people get all wadded up over the word money and profit and wealth and all that kind of stuff. It's a tool, So I heard somebody once said like money exposes people. So like if you're a jerk and you don't have much money, nobody knows about you. If you're a jerk and you got a lot of money, well, the whole world knows about you. But you're the same jerk you were before. It's just more people know about it. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And so, and I think there's some truth to that. So for me, as far as the money part, I can remember when my wife and I were relatively newly married, I hired the first consultant ever. And that person said, it's like, David, how much money do you want to make a year? So this is a number of decades ago. And you weren't even born yet, Amber. And so... I
don't know that we're that far off from each other, but we'll just let you have it.
Yeah, there you go. So you look youthful and young. You're good for you. And so
lasers and needles. No.
Right. Okay.
That's a whole other episode.
There you go.
Wellness. No.
That's right. That's right. Part B. And so, but in any way, like at that time I said, I pulled the number like, 45,000 or something like that, decades ago. And my wife was like, well, why not 88? And, it's like just mindset, like, 45, because I was saying, well, 45 is enough to pay for the bills, put a little bit in retirement, blah, blah, blah. We're good. And then, when you look at it and say, but yeah, if you made the difference between 88 and 45, like what good could you do in the world with another, 43,000? You're like, shoot, you can do a lot of good with that, couldn't we? So that's that tool thing, So getting my head around that and looking and saying, you can earn as much money as you can possibly get, David, because you're going to do good things with it. And as long as you earn it where it's like the outcome of all the amazing stuff you do, it's not the objective at all to make a lot of money. You do all this other stuff right, then you're going to make lots of money. You don't do the other things right and you make lots of money, then something's wrong and that's going to flip and it's going to fall apart.
A lot of executive coaches that I've used myself, if you are believing in it and throwing out some pretty high goals, you put it out there, it's pretty amazing how things start to happen when you dive into personal development. You give it away to the people around you. And when I talked about focusing on money and risk management, really you talked about it with the overall culture of the team. You don't miss a beat. That's risk management. It's not insurance products. It's, are you laying the groundwork that when there's a fire drill, the boat's not going to tip, because even if some people are leaving, they're off the team or just not there or they're sick, everything else is going to keep running because everyone's been cross-trained and believe in the cause. And I think that's a huge part of having resilience when we have obstacles, and we will.
Yes, we will. You're absolutely right. Yep. Yeah. Nobody said it's going to be easy. If they did, they're lying to you.
Yeah.
I say like the money part, so like if you're talking to business owners, like, so you're earning, like, where do you do the money? Like, so you want to make money, pay attention to that, so to invest that, the number one investment that every single business owner has to do, kind of back to that looking in the mirror thing, is how do we make you a better version of you? Like anything, because your business is never going to be any better than you. It just, that's not going to happen unless you make yourself separated from the business and you have nothing to do with it. You're strictly a assignment partner in it now, or you have no say, so you can't possibly influence it negatively, and you hire amazing people. So short of that, so that's not really small business anymore. That's getting in multiple levels. So first, how do you invest in money to make you better? So you think better, buy a book, go to courses, get around people. All that stuff to me takes time and money. When I get around people, it's like, they're not going to come to my house. Maybe a couple, but most of them they're out there someplace. So it's like, okay, get an airplane, fly there, get around those people, flush your brain up, put good stuff in, and then, make sure you do that every 90 days or sooner. And then second is investing in your team. Like get the right people and then pour money and time and effort and hard love and all that stuff into your team to show them that you care. And yet at some point in time, you care enough that you're just going to push them when they need a little push. You're going to nudge them when they need a hug. You're going to give them a hug when they need a hug. But it's a constant journey of getting better, become better versions of themselves.
Perfect segue into step 4 being looking at marketing and technology, which sounds like, oh, we're going to teach a marketing class. It's about this constant evolution of innovating, any age. And you talk about how you've kind of pulled together the team to be more accountable. But you yourself have to give them some tools and resources. Some of that's personal development, the book, the course. But are you giving them the tools that can help them be successful? The reason I'm going this route is I do a lot of speaking with some nonprofits in financial services, and the younger generation that are maybe not even coming into our business anymore. We're trying to recruit more interest into this world because we need a lot more people to help others with money and finances, not like you had said, not just follow the leader, but truly let's give people some information so they can do what they're good at and then we can handle the rest. But a lot of the practices or firms, they just don't have the technology that's necessary to keep things moving. And that's the biggest grievance with some of those that are transitioning into that more senior veteran position, transitioning succession plan, like that owner. This is maybe more my world, but maybe you can help speak to it. We're just not bringing in the tools and resources to make things more efficient and to allow the team to be more accountable because we have systems and processes. So I know that the younger people, younger than me, because I'm in my mid 40s, and then my 30-year-old counterparts, they're saying a lot of times that sounds great, but they're not investing in what we need to be. And then the patients can feel that too, or the clients can feel that. Any thoughts on just that aspect of it? Yeah,
I probably have, I think it's old school mentality, and I'm probably not going to be able to be the best person to tell you, what's current, state of the art technology to help support this. But to me, every single business is based on sales. Like if you don't sell anything, you're done. I mean, okay. So therefore, everybody at some level has to know, like, you're in a sales position. Doesn't matter where you're at, you're supporting, either you're directly in it or you're supporting that sales process. So everybody has to get used to that. And to me, that like dentistry is, maybe ours is, some ways is a good example and maybe it isn't. But we might have people come into what the kind of dentistry we did, and they might spend tens of thousands of dollars to do what they're going to do. Okay. But then at the same point, at 6 months, you go to dentist, at 6 months, they might come in again. And then at 12 months, their regular checkup, cleanings, that kind of stuff. Right. And so there's some revenue in that. So I think any business you look at and said, even a car dealer, well, is it a one-off, or are you looking to have this person buy 4 cars there and then their kids buy cars there and then their grandkids buy cars? Like, what are you looking for? And if that's what you're looking for, I can't think of too many businesses that are strictly one-off, and we never want that customer again.
Right.
Like whatever we sell them is going to last for 100 years, and they're gone. It's all relationship driven. And I know, like in dentistry, like so much stuff has become tech, and so much stuff has become emails and text messages. And God forbid I meet the person face to face. Like, what the hell would I say?
Right.
And that's like so old school, like face to face. Like, oh my God, no way. And yet at the same time, my feeling would be, you want to create the best basis for your business to succeed is you create amazing relationships with people where they look at it and just say, like, the age old thing, like, people do business with people they like.
Yeah. First
purchase, maybe not. Well, I saved, $50 on the car. Okay. So you gave them that. But they're not coming back to the second car unless there's something like, if you said, I'm going to beat somebody on price. Well, go back in time and look at why isn't Montgomery Ward's here anymore? Because Sears beat them out. Why aren't they here? Because Kmart beat them out. Well, how come they're not there? Because Walmart beat them out. And guess what? You go to far enough years down the road, Amazon's going to get rid of Walmart. And it's always going to get rid of Amazon. I mean, that's just a transition because it's all based on price. But when you look at that service relationship side of it, Ritz-Carlton's been around for lots of years, all relationship based. And I'm not saying your business has to be a Ritz and all that kind of stuff. It's just when you focus on the relationship part, some of the tech stuff, you got to be wary of it because it's tech just for the sake of tech. But it's not addressing maybe the most important criteria, but do our customers loving us more? Or are they just loving the way we do this process? And with that process changes a little bit, they're like, there's no person attached to Amber. It's just at lastname.com. And I can just go to anybody else that's .com and go to them.
In this category of marketing, I talk pretty specifically to people or groups about the branding. And even if you're not the owner and you've talked about your team being that well-rounded, everyone's getting the same treatment as far as this investment or education. Right. There is this branding, and that's kind of what I think you're saying is it's not just about technology, but making sure there's that feeling attached to the experience. So make things efficient for people to be able to have their reminders and different things as they're busy. But there's got to be that overall feeling walking through the door. And it starts with the person at the front all the way to the back. And I think sometimes people or employees feel like, well, I'm not going to do that. I don't own it. It's not my company. But I think it goes back to the original steps we were talking about. They have to feel really integrated into the core values and the mission. That's going to help that overall brand. And that's in its sense, like you talked about all these other companies way back in the, I know what Montgomery Ward's is and the catalogs that we used to look through, but we can't lose that feeling, that experience. And so kind of putting it all together, but that branding is so important and we can't miss that out there as we advertise, but also that feeling it's going to be right when the services are being provided.
Yeah, exactly. And, I would say it's so core to human relationships is that, when I do something nice to somebody else, it's like, oh, well, they feel good, right? And say, well, when it's done for the right reason, which is I'm just doing it for somebody and like they were truly appreciative. Like, thank you for that note you sent me, that written note, like about whatever's going on. Thank you for that. Like the real benefactor of that is me, the sender. Like I'm the one that is like, wow, like that just felt good to do that. So like I would tell business owners, like you want to be like totally selfish. Well, then do a lot of good stuff for other people because you're going to benefit way more than they are. Not down the road, like immediately, like you're looking to say like, that was just like a good pay it forward that I just did just them and I feel good about it, and then not trying to get like all soft and, whatever you might want to call that. I just think that's this real world business thing like that. That fuels the engine. Like just tell your team, like, do something super nice for somebody today, feel a whole lot better about yourself.
There's that gratitude. If you can give that out or even just put a smile on your face, it can change a lot of things for a lot of people. As we talk about community and there's a reciprocating, or if it's not being reciprocated, get in a different group. But there's this trade-off of mentorship and menteeship. And was there anything instrumental for you that maybe from a mentorship perspective that you'd like to share with the audience?
Well, I think that it's interesting that, again, like some things in my past, I'd probably say, like, gosh, like, you're lucky you got as far as you got, David, because you just put up so many barriers to your own success, like hiring people that are just marginal good enough. Like, what were you thinking?
Because you're saving money, right? That was the point, right?
No, honestly, some of it was like, well, if they get too good, they're going to leave. And then I got to hire again. So I'm going to hire.
Just preventing turnover.
Yeah, right.
I think a lot of business owners worry about that. Absolutely. It's not just you.
And I always did. But once I looked at it and said, yeah, but if you get a strong culture there, it's so easy to bring a new person in because the culture is already in place. And there's people, not you, the owner, because you're always going to say, this is how we do it. Oh, yeah, good. But when we're team is there and say, like, no, this is how we do it. Like, this is why you do that because of him? Well, yeah, because of him, but not really because this is who we are. Like, no, this is this place. The name of the business, this is who we are. So that just sucks people in to that so much faster than any business owner could do with a whip or a carrot or anything like that. It's just that culture of people, because they're their peers. The owner, no matter how good a relationship you have with your employees, there's still, you're the owner and I'm here. And, there's that difference. It's always going to be there. You can't deny that. But their peers, when they're saying like, no, this is who we are, that's just so helpful. So for me though, I probably didn't look for a mentor. Like I was like, I'm going to do it myself. That was always kind of my thing. Well, if it's broken, I'm going to fix it myself. So now if I was going to say this to any of your listeners, I just tell this to especially younger being, anybody at any age, but certainly, somebody's in their 30s and 40s and so forth, but they're say, I wish I could do this. Or sometimes I was on an airplane the other day and the guy sitting next to me and he was describing this CFO in his business. He said, that guy's amazing. I wish I could think like him and be like him. And I said, like, how old is this guy? He said, I don't know, mid-60s. I had no idea. It was something like that. I said, oh, so I bet you, and he described this guy, And so I said, I bet you, this message to your listeners, there are a lot of people out there that would like nothing more than to have part of their legacy be helping people like you get to where you want to get and being able to mentor you. But they're not going to come to you. But you just see something you think are amazing. I think people would be just absolutely amazed when they go there with humility and say, I've watched you, I've seen you, I've heard you in meetings. I would give anything just to have a little bit of your time on a regular basis to be an NT of yours. Whatever you can spare, I would love. Whatever you tell me to do, I'm going to do it because I would just love to learn just a little bit of what you know, a little bit of who you are.
Get in the room.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And I think there's this, I'm kidding myself, but I know I'm not. Because, at some point in time, people, they already are in life and they start looking at it and saying, some way earlier and others and some way later. And they look and say, when it's all done, how do I want to be remembered?
Yep.
And what's going to happen? Like you said, goes to disappears. And some of that legacy may be a building, maybe all that stuff. Great. But some of it might be, especially for somebody like me, it's like, if I can improve the life of one person in a significant way, sure. Yeah. It's easy. Why not do that? And then, so humble yourself, find people, approach them, and then do the work. Like if they say, here's a good book to read, don't say, yeah, I don't like to read. Like, no, read the book. Get the audio version.
Yep. There's no excuses. Yeah. Gotta put your time in.
Right. Just go do it. So I didn't do that, but if I had to repeat that, because there are people on the way that if I had approached them, I'm sure they would have been like, oh, Dave, love to help you out. No problem. But anyway, so now
I agree with you. Putting yourself around the people, it truly does change your life. And sometimes you have to really look at your inner circle to say, who's maybe the naysayer, doesn't see the vision. Even if they don't understand the ultimate goal, are they supporting you? Or are they just not believing in it in their own mind and shutting it down? It's not good. And that can be really tough sometimes to identify and move forward from that.
Yep. And I think, some of it may be expectation, Amber, that if you're looking at saying, like, I'm here and I want to grow to here because the only way I can get to where I want to get to, what I did to get here, I have to do something different to get there. As you move from here to there, people on the way are going to try to stop you. And they're going to be naysayers, not out of spite, not out of anything. They just don't understand where you're going. Sometimes even family members think that but if you fail, it's going to hurt. And I don't want you to fail. They don't say that. They just say, you shouldn't do that. That's not like us. We don't do that. Why aren't you happy where you are? How much money is enough? All that kind of stuff. And you're still right, Amber, that you just have to stay away from people, right?
Especially if they're not as successful as the other person you're trying to get around. Maybe don't take advice from them, right?
You are. Right, you are. Yeah.
So let's wrap up with you.
Yeah.
How can people find you and potentially work with you?
Yeah. Well, I'm easy to find. That probably the easiest thing. I've written a couple of books. One of them's available now at Amazon. So Peak Success. You just Google that, Amazon, that you find that. But the name of the company is Ultimate Success in Dentistry. Website, ultimatesuccess.dentist. A little different. There's no com there. So ultimatesuccess.dentist. But if you just Google, spell my name right, Pearce, David Pearce.
We'll link it up for everybody.
It popped up. We got a YouTube, vlog every single week, so they can look at that and see what, creates their fancy there. And easy to find. And, anybody that wants to chat, how would I say, happy to take people's money, but I'm not in it for the money. Fortunately, my wife and I are in a really good position that, this isn't a business that we have to make money in. It's a business that we want to do so that we can create a better life for some people out there. And if we can do that, then that just fits. So,
and it's not just in one state. You're probably nationally, maybe globally available.
Every client I have, I always meet them for a day. So the folks that we meet, I just look and say, no worries. Now, before we sign any agreements, you're going to fly to my house. We're going to spend 2 days together. I'm going to wine you, dine you, take care of all your expenses, all that kind of stuff on me. And at the end of that day together of planning and looking at things, the blueprint that we come up with, if you look at that and say, I love it, David, but I want to do it myself, I'd say, no problem. There you go. It's all yours. Everything's still on me. No worries. And if you ever need me, great. And for people say, I love it and I want your help, then off we go and we kill it. So, so I'm easy.
Awesome.
I'm easy to work with. So,
and you got good places to fly to.
Yes, indeed. We got.
If you like this warm or cold, you can pick.
That's right. We're on the sunny beach right here.
And I like it.
We're in the Rockies, so we're good to go.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing your story and your insight into just that, making a good experience for everybody that you work along with, collaborate with, and take care of. So I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, Amber. You have a wonderul show here. I'm so glad
Thank you.
Because I know where I'm sitting, this is the easy part. Where you're sitting, that's where all the work takes place on a podcast. So I appreciate your willingness to put in the time and the effort and keep us organized. And it's a great show. So my kudos to you.
Thank you. Thanks to everybody joining us today. And then we'll be following here, Dr. Pearce, into the future. Thanks again.
Thank you. Bye, Amber.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Pathways. For more information about the podcast, books, articles, the blog, and so much more, please visit my website at amberstitt.com. And remember, let's take action today. Thank you for listening.